Right On Press presents Infestation, a Right On Press feature. Distributed by Right On Press for Right On Press Nigeria. Copyright 2021 Right On E-Publishing LLC, all rights reserved. Narrated by Terry Jenkins. The sun was setting on Marco Villa, a young Texas Ranger left for dead outside an abandoned church. He leaned his head against the wall and watched the black curtain slowly fall. The stars blended in, and with it came the howls of the mighty gray wolf. He held his six-shooter, popped out the cylinder, and counted. 3 bullets. Not enough to take on a pack of gray wolves. Villa kept applying pressure to his bullet wound, but he couldn't help but notice how difficult it was to breathe. He knew he wasn't going to stay conscious for long. It was time to bite the bullet. He pulled the hammer back on his revolver and placed the barrel on his temple. Hear me and hear me right. He looked up to the sky. I ain't begging for an entrance. Wherever I go, I go. All I ask is that you look after my daughter, because if you don't, I'll crawl out of whatever hell you put me in, and I'll set you straight. He gritted his teeth. Villa noticed a tall figure from the corner of his eye. He quickly shifted. Pointing his gun into the dark, he growled, "Who goes there? I got just enough to take you down with me." From the shadows, a pair of luminous eyes stepped out of the dark and into the moonlight. The Texas Ranger knew this was no ordinary man. "Easy," spoke the man with burning ember eyes. "I'm Damien, guard to his royal darkness." "Excuse me," grunted Villa. "I'm from hell." "Ah, hell," Villa cursed before fainting. Jolting back to life, the wounded ranger gasped for air as if trying to catch his soul from escaping. "Whoa there, cowboy. Take it slow," said the man with ember eyes. Villa explored his surroundings, everything still a bit blurry. He saw that he was in a dark and empty saloon. There were chairs and tables knocked over. Broken windows with glass scattered on the floor gave sign of a break-in. Villa could smell singed furniture and what he thought might be burnt human flesh. "You're all right, Ranger," declared Damien. Villa snapped back to reality. He scrambled away from the demon, jumping from the bar where he had been laid. "Get away from me," Villa snarled. "I don't make friends with the devil." "Well, first of all, that's hurtful," stated Damien. "And second, I'm not the devil. I'm a member of his royal guard. Also, you should be thankful I found you. I even took out the bullet. See?" Damien pointed to a bloody bucket with a bullet inside. Villa stretched his neck out to get a look, trying not to get too close to the demon. He then inspected the demon from head to toe. He was, in fact, a creature of considerable size. It was dressed all in black, except for silver spurs and a bolo tie. He holstered a tri-barreled revolver, a whip, and pinned to his vest was a small silver plate with the engraved regiment, Dragon Division. "Not sure what kind of trouble you got yourself into, son, but I promise you we have a bigger problem," informed Damien. Villa leaned against the bar, holding on to his aching wound. "How much do you know about dragons?" asked the demon. "Run that by me again." "Dragons?" Villa raised an eyebrow. Damien scratched his 5 o'clock shadow. Dragons. Draco vulgaris. Majestic creatures. They're lizards, but with wings. Damien paused for a second. They fly. He gestured with his hand. And spit fire? He wiggled his fingers to imitate a flame. No, I know what a dragon is, Via stated. I'm wondering what a mythical creature has to do with any of this. Damien scratched his head. Mythical? You guys don't have dragons up here? Via crossed his arms and slowly turned his head, afraid of where this was all going. No. Ha! Well, you do now. He slapped his knee. What? How? Via exclaimed, flinching at his pain. Acknowledging Via's condition, the demon grabbed a chair and kicked it to him, sliding it right to his side. Grab a seat before you hurt yourself, he ordered. Marco Via didn't like being told what to do. I'm fine. Now tell me, what do you mean we have dragons now? Outside the window, something large swooped by. The sounds of a horse crying for help echoed as it was carried off into the night. Via stared at the demon with eyes wide open, shocked by what he had just heard. He took a seat. Damien walked over to the bar, grabbed a bottle of whiskey, and poured 2 glasses. He handed one to Via, who took it without hesitation. Damien explained that Hell was in a bit of a transitional period. Civil war had broken out, and the King of Hell was trying to calm said fire. His royal darkness had ordered the dragon unit to help with an ambush, but upon fetching his dragons, Damien noticed one was missing, the mother dragon. Somehow, rebels managed to unleash her onto Earth, effectively buying them some time. The sun was beginning to rise, which meant the dragon was in slumber. Damien urged that he had to find her before she woke. Dragons can travel farther in one night than a horse could in 1 week. The only problem is the portal to Hell happened to be in the middle of town. Damien recommended Via to get everyone out of town before sundown. The Texas Ranger informed him that the next town over was more than a day away. The demon sipped on his whiskey and contemplated. Well, we can't leave these people exposed. The dragon is going to sniff them out, and they'll have no refuge. They're going to have to hunker down while I guide her back through the portal. Via stood up. I'll help. I have a daughter who's only a few towns over. I'm not leaving the fate of this town or any other town in your hands. No offense, but you are a demon after all. Damien glared. Again? Hurtful? Via walked to the door. Let's get people what they need and make sure they stay indoors tonight. Then we can go ahead and hunt it down. Her name is Penelope, and we are guiding her home safe. We aren't hunting her down. Tomato, tomato, anything to get this creature out of my world. Let's get going. The large demon remained seated. Let me just finish my whiskey. Our stuff isn't half this good. The Texas Ranger rang the church bell, gathering the townsfolk. Heads poked out of their windows and hiding places. Many were covered in soot, and all were shaking, shocked by what they had just witnessed. The people surrounded Damien and Via. Howdy, my name is Marco Via, Texas Ranger. And this here is, He glanced at the demon. This is my partner, Damien. I'm sure you're all concerned about the dragon situation. The crowd started to murmur. I told you it was a dragon, Mama, said a 7-year-old boy in a cowboy hat too big for his head. It took all my cattle, yelled a farmer. He ate my deputy, screamed the sheriff. She correcting Damien under his breath. Really? Via eyed the demon. I'm just trying to educate, justified the demon. The people began murmuring again, terrified of what was to come next. Via whistled with 2 fingers as loud as he could, getting everyone's attention. He explained the situation. It was not safe for anyone to leave town, and that everyone should stay indoors after sundown. No exceptions. People began to holler and protest, arguing that it didn't make sense to wait for the monster to come back. Damien stepped in. Everyone, calm down, he bellowed. I'll tell you why you shouldn't leave. I've dealt with creatures like this. Oh yes, she's a real beauty. But like any beautiful creature, one must be wary. I take it this is your first time seeing a dragon in person. Well, let me teach you all. A dragon of her size can pick up 2 horses, he gestured with 2 fingers, with ease, and glide like a feather. She can travel farther in one night than any of you could riding on horseback in 7 days and 7 nights. And she can smell you from miles away. So running isn't going to do you any good. I've seen her swallow men alive just because they looked at her the wrong way. Like my deputy, stuttered the sheriff. That's right, Damien nodded. Like your deputy. So please, everyone stay indoors tonight. My partner and I will hunt it down, added Via. Her, corrected Damien. Ugh, her. We will find her. Stay home. Via walked off, making Damien follow. The townspeople stayed behind, murmuring. So, what's the plan? Asked Via. We ride, answered Damien. With the sun beating down on their backs, the demon and the ranger traveled northbound to the mountain ridges. Dragons like sleeping in caves, said Damien. Reminds them of when they slept inside their egg, makes them feel safe. Via thought that to be strange. A vicious apex predator needing to feel safe. Yep, just a big old baby she is. She's a large predator who ate a person and devoured someone's cattle. I don't think she's a baby. Damien waved off his comment. Listen, dragons are very misunderstood. Yeah, they are dangerous, but they only destroy when they are afraid or are very hungry. In hell, we keep them well fed, we train them, we care for them. So they're like dogs. Dogs? What are those? Huh, I guess they do all go to heaven. Damien clicked his tongue, signaling his horse to halt. He had noticed a cave about half a mile up. He pointed to the entrance. There it is. Let's go. Whoa, Via reacted. What do you mean, let's go? What? We're just gonna march in there and say, Hey, Penelope, it's time to go home now. Damien had been too comfortable with his dragons the past 200 years. He'd forgotten how one might react to a new environment. You might have a point there, he said. How's about we just go up there and make sure she's there sleeping? Then we make a plan. All right, big fella. Just don't go waking her up now. Via dismounted and walked along his horse next to the demon. It wasn't long before they were just outside the cave entrance. Something was definitely in there. The Texas Ranger could hear something snoring inside. Its deep breathing caused a powerful breeze, almost blowing off Via's hat. Okay, I think it's in here, Via whispered. Let's go in a bit further. It could probably just be a 2-headed bear. A what? No, there aren't any two, Via grunted. We only have 1-headed bears here. Holy hell, your home sounds terrifying. Damien left his horse outside the cave and continued inside. Via bit his lip, not wanting to go any further, but ultimately following suit just so he wouldn't be called a yellow belly. The further in they went, the darker it got, and the louder the snores became. It was becoming more difficult to see where they were stepping. Via tripped. He tried to stand up, holding onto a rock. It was a rather smooth and round rock. He felt it vibrate. Damien lit a match. "Uh-oh," he whispered. In front of them was a lizard with wings as big as a house curled up in a ball. Around her were dozens of eggs. "We have a problem," Damien gulped. The demon slowly walked backward, grabbing Via by the back of his collar. Stepping outside, Damien paced back and forth. "Were those?" asked Via. "Yep," answered Damien, still pacing. "There were almost 100 eggs in there." "Around 80, the demon corrected. "You gotta stop doing that." "Stop being wrong." Via clenched his fist out of frustration. "So now what? Do you just get your demon buddies to come get her and the eggs? How is this gonna work?" Damien explained that there was no help coming. With war waging in hell, they had no other units to spare. It was just him and the ranger. Via joined the demon, pacing back and forth. "How much time do you think we have until the eggs hatch?" he asked. "They're hatching tonight." "Tonight?" Via whispered sharply. "Okay, we need a plan. Maybe we can lock them in. Put a big enough rock to block them from coming out?" "A big rock isn't stopping a mother dragon." Damien thought for a minute. "Okay, baby dragons follow their mom wherever she goes. She knows me. I think I can guide her back through the portal and the rest will follow." Via added, "Okay, so we wait for her eggs to hatch. Then you what? Sing to her?" "Sing? No, I'll have to ride her back through the portal. You stay behind and ensure all the dragons have hatched. I guess right now we wait for sundown," said Damien. Via clicked his tongue, ordering his horse to heel. He proceeded to lay down next to his horse, tilting his head to cover his eyes. He was going to need his rest. The sun was beginning to set. Damien threw a pebble at Via. It landed on his cowboy hat, waking him up from his nap. "Rise and shine, princess. We've got some dragons to catch." "Was really hoping this was all just a nightmare." "How sweet. You were dreaming about me?" "You'd be so lucky," Via said as he got up, dusting himself off. He pulled out his revolver, spun the cylinder, and locked it back in. Damien protested. "A 6-shooter not only won't harm the mother dragon, but it's sure to piss her off." He also warned against shooting any of her babies. In hell, dragons are seen as a symbol of hope and purity. Killing one will give 7 generations of bad luck. The Texas Ranger holstered his gun, promising not to harm the hatchlings. "I gotta ask," said Via, resting his hand on his holster. "What is hell like?" Damien began to stretch, reaching for his toes, then the sky. "Well, for a demon, it's practically heaven. We do whatever we want. I like to go hiking a lot. There's some wonderful trails, like the Valley of the Shadow of Death. That one is a lot of fun. But hell for you humans? Boy, I'd hate to be you guys." "A lot of torture?" "It's the only thing. Are you afraid that's where you're going?" Via paused for a second. "Let's just say I did a lot of bad things for the right reasons." Damien looked down at the ground. "The road to hell is paved with good intentions, Ranger." Via slowly nodded his head, looking off into the distance. "Yep. Guess I'll be seeing you down there real soon." The demon looked up at Via. "Word of advice? Don't drink the water. It will only drive you crazy. You're not going to die of thirst in hell when you're already dead." The breeze coming from the cave stopped. The sun was almost set. "You hear that?" "No," said Via, concerned. "Mama's awake. I'm going inside. I'll come out of there wings blazing. You stay behind and double-check all the eggs have been hatched," Damien ordered. "After that, take my horse. He'll make sure you catch up. You just hold on." The demon nodded once, grabbed his whip, and walked into the cave. The night had settled in as well as the cold. Via held on to the reins of both horses, nervously waiting for the beast to come bursting out, along with its children. He rubbed his hands together, trying to keep them warm. A minute went by. Nothing. A few minutes passed. Still nothing. After 15 minutes, Via began to pace back and forth. What could be taking so long? He wondered. Suddenly, a ball of fire exploded from the entrance. The ground began to tremble as the mighty beast picked up speed, running towards the exit. Via held onto the horses, trying to calm them. The dragon leaped out of the cave and spread its wings, spitting fire into the night. But there was no one riding it. Its babies swarmed out of the cave in pursuit of their mother. Dozens of critters the size of newborn colts jumped into the night. They wobbled in midair, trying to fly for the first time. Some even attempted to breathe fire, barely managing sparks. "Ride, Ranger, ride!" screamed Damien from inside the cave. Via leaped onto his horse and rode into the night. At full speed, he was able to catch up to the hatchlings as they glided above. Damien quickly caught up with his black steed. "She didn't recognize me," he yelled. "She's panicked and now headed straight to town. I'll try to catch up to her. The minute she lands, I'll guide her into the portal." "Listen," Damien yelled. "They're all hungry. If allowed, they will eat everyone in town. Gather as much rope as you can and tie them down. Don't let them gang up on you. 3 can tear you into pieces. Keep your eyes peeled." Damien kicked his horse, reaching abnormal speeds for any ordinary stallion. Up ahead in the distance, the dragon breathed fire on the quiet town. It glided around, its tremendous shadow circling around like a vulture ready to eat what she believes is already hers. Damien caught up to her just minutes after she had burned down a house. People inside the home fled into other buildings. Damien dismounted from his horse and cracked his whip onto the ground, revealing the gateway to hell. "Come on, Penelope. It's time to go home. I promise your babies are coming," he assured her. The mother was not having it. She breathed on Damien. The demon dove to the side, singeing part of his pants. Damien cracked his whip again. "Come on, honey. You want some fresh unicorn? We've got some right at home." He pointed towards the portal. She sniffed in that general direction, hissing. She tried to take off again. Damien growled. "No, no, we are going home," he commanded. The demon lassoed the dragon's right leg and pulled it down with all his might. From behind came Marco Villa, chasing the hatchlings via horseback. He pulled back on the reins, halting his horse. He looked into the portal and stared into the abyss. The hatchlings perched themselves on buildings, looking down at their mother as she disobeyed. Chaos reigned. Damien lassoed her neck, trying to pull her down just low enough for him to mount. She whipped her head to the side. The demon pulled with both arms, veins popping. She launched him upward with the toss of her neck, making him crash through the saloon window. Her hatchlings swarmed the town and tried to break into homes. Villa kicked his horse and ran. He galloped around town, trying to tie up as many critters as he could. A hatchling broke through a window, its hind legs and tail sticking out. People inside screamed for help. Via yanked the hatchling by its tail. The baby dragon nipped at his arm, tearing his shirt and ripping flesh. He wrestled it to the ground and hogtied it with some rope. 1 down, 79 to go, he thought to himself. Damien opened his eyes, finding himself on top of the bar. He grabbed a bottle of whiskey, took a swig, and got back up. He ran outside, calling out for Penelope. "Penelope! We've got to get you and your babies home safe!" he cried out. The dragon whacked him with her tail, sending him flying once more. Via had his hands a bit busy with the newborns. He heard screaming from a different home. The Texas Ranger shot the lock from the door and kicked it in. Inside was a father protecting his child from 2 hatchlings with only a broom. Via ripped off the window curtains and leaped onto the dragons. "Get me a rope," he called out, barely being able to contain the critters. The father helped tie them down, making sure their snouts were tied shut. Via dragged them out and threw them into the portal. The mother saw that. She didn't appreciate it very much. Their eyes connected. Both stood still. Her left foot itched to charge forward. A single bead of sweat slid down the ranger's brow, catching the light from the fire. He took a deep breath. Crack! Damien whipped the dragon as he leaped from a building, landing on her back. He quickly wrapped his whip around her neck, trying to gain control. She began to thrash, spitting fire wherever her head pointed. Via dove out of the way, seeking shelter behind a couple barrels. The dragon took off flying with Damien. The hatchlings, like the swarm they were, went after their mother. Damien heaved to the left, making her swan dive straight down towards the portal. The demon whistled for his horse, and through the portal Damien dove with dragons and all. Like an infestation of locusts, their wings flapped straight to hell. The portal began to slowly fold into itself. It was all about to end when suddenly Via heard more screams. He charged into a nearby house. One thing was for sure, this was not the runt of the litter. The baby dragon was almost the size of a grown draft horse. "Hey, over here!" he yelled. "Away from the kids. You want me, don't you?" Via badgered the baby dragon as he threw things at it. The dragon turned around and fixated itself on the ranger. Via faked left and then took off running towards the portal. The giant baby galloped after him. The ranger looked back to check if it was in pursuit. Indeed it was, and it was gaining on him fast. Via didn't see any other option. He ran towards the portal and leaped into the gates of hell. Down, down he fell into the crevices of hell. Marco Villa witnessed his own history mirrored through emerald flames. The lives he had taken, the inner demons he had battled, all grinned back at him as he plummeted to damnation. And with all being said, he crashed into hell with no regrets of his wrongdoings, for he knew he had done his best. With a firm thud, Villa landed on sand between 2 suns and a moon. Far as the eye could see, lakes of fresh water filled in the depressions between the sand dunes. He looked around, but there was no one in sight. The Texas Ranger was on his own once again. He walked down to the bottom of the dune, curious of the water. He dipped his hand, feeling its cool touch. Odd, he thought to himself. The water did not ripple or move as he waved his hand around. He smiled. With clothes and all, he sprung into the water. He could feel the heat and dirt leaving his body. A sense of cleansing filled his soul as he frolicked. Villa hadn't felt this clean in years. But to his horror, he saw his skin beginning to melt. Villa screamed in agony, trying to escape the water. Rotting hands jumped out from underneath him, pulling him down. The ranger struggled with all his might, but he was no match against the damned. They pulled him below as he thrashed around. Panicking, he struggled to keep his head above water. He felt his revolver at his waist. Villa clasped its handle and let bullets fly, shooting his way free from their grip. The Texas Ranger got free and quickly made a break towards land. Breathless, he gasped for air as he laid in the sand. Villa blinked several times, bemused. His skin was completely intact. Villa continued on his trek through hell. It felt like he had been walking for days, but here in hell the suns never set. Thirst was all he could think about. However, he knew better than to touch the water. Villa dragged his feet, exhaustion overwhelming him. He laid down just to rest his sore feet, the hot sun burning his back. From a distance he could hear cries for help and animals screeching for mercy. The ranger jumped to his feet, searching for where the sound was coming from. He spreaded towards it. Down in one of the lakes was the baby dragon he had leaped into hell with. It was being dragged under. The Texas Ranger hesitated for a moment. That little bastard was going to eat him anyway. Good riddance, he said to himself. Villa tried to walk away, but the beast's cries for help were too much for him to bear. He charged down the dune with his six-shooter in hand. He stomped into the lake, helping to keep the dragon's head above water. He aimed at the decaying hands, freeing the helpless critter. Villa shot his last bullet. His revolver clicked. It had nothing more to give. The ranger dragged the dragon out of the water with all his might, his sore legs burning, yearning for him to stop. The dragon's legs finally gained traction and helped carry itself onto land. Marco Villa's legs couldn't carry on any longer. He collapsed in the sand. The dragon circled him. "Oh, come on," Villa grumbled. "I just saved you," he said, out of breath. The dragon opened its mouth, bit onto his collar, and pulled him up the dune, away from the water. It then proceeded to lay down next to him, exhausted from the struggle. The beast then went belly up, asking for Villa to scratch its scaly underside. The Texas Ranger laughed. "I guess you're all right," he said, scratching its surprisingly soft stomach. The ranger and the dragon fell asleep under the sun, too tired to keep going. High up above, he heard a whistle. An enormous shadow glided over them. Blocking the sun from his eyes, Villa looked above. It was Damien and the mother dragon. They had been searching for her last hatchling. Villa stood on shaky legs, waving his arms. Damien and Penelope circled around one last time before landing, sending sand all over the place. The baby dragon stood up, galloping towards its mother. With her wings, she pulled him in closer. "What in heavens are you doing down here?" asked Damien, unable to believe his eyes. "Had to make sure the last one went through. Didn't have much of a choice but to jump in." "Could have thrown in a stake or something," Damien teased. "Yeah, must have left the stake in my other pants." The hatchling walked on over, rubbing its head against Villa's side. "I see you made a friend. Told you they're misunderstood. I mean, it did try to eat me before, but I guess that's water under the bridge. So what now?" "Welcome to hell, I guess." Villa bit his cracked lips. "I'm stuck down here?" "I'm afraid so." Villa rubbed his beard. Somberly, he said, "My daughter was turning 5 in a week. Was gonna teach her how to ride a horse." Damien nodded. "Look, don't tell anyone this, but you can keep an eye on her from down here. There are ways. I'll show you how. In the meantime, there's a civil war going on, and I could use someone I trust." The Texas Ranger looked up. "You want me to join the Dragon Unit?" We are outnumbered, and we could use all the help we can get. Come on now. Don't make me beg. Do I get a whip like yours? You don't get tortured for eternity. Via sucked on his teeth. Yeah, I guess it's a fair deal. He shook the demon's hand. Damien helped the ranger mount Penelope. The hatchling followed. With one swift motion, they were flying. It's real fast, yelled Via. She, corrected Damien. Aw, hell. Not this again. The end.